of the real architects of Aadhaar, and what we have been talking about in terms of societal scale technologies, R.S. Sharma ji has been at the forefront of actually, two massive systems rollout. And we thought that there would be nobody else better than him to talk about how India has managed to do it, and what kind of lessons have we learned through these massive rollouts. Imagining, vaccinating more than 10 million people in a day, probably more than the size of some of the countries' population in Europe. It's a massive, massive challenge. And what we want to take from that lesson is that, is there a way, or thinking from our side, that by 2030 we would be actually able to have every single one of the Indian covered in some kind of healthcare. And that's a massive opportunity that we see, and we would love to learn from the lessons that you probably have encountered, thought solutions about, because this is a massive audience of technologists. And a person with your immense experience can actually give us clues as to how do we go about solving societal scale AI problems. Thank you very much. Without much further ado, I would like to invite Sewak Sharma ji to give the closing keynote. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, friends, and good afternoon to you all. First of all, let me thank IISC and ARTPARK for inviting me to their Innovation Summit 2022. I was looking at the program, and I find that there are very, very prominent speakers which have participated in this, and I am sure they must have given very, very valuable input, which will, I'm sure, will benefit everybody, the audience, and also the ARTPARK sort of community. I really have not much to offer by way of AI or machine learning and stuff like that. I'm a typical bureaucrat who will be able to tell you about some lessons which we have learned through our journey. The country has learned through our journey since last about a decade or so. So that's what I'll focus on, and of course, Cowin, and thereafter the digital mission, the digital health mission, that will also probably figure in what I am going to talk about. So one is that the digital journey of India had begun sometime in the beginning of this century, so to say. Before that, also there were sporadic sort of interventions into governance space, especially, and we were district magistrates in the year way back in 1985, 86. We started doing some things on the computer in the rural, sort of maybe sealing records, or maybe treasury computerization and public grievances and stuff like that. That's where we started. And slowly, when the world became more and more connected and systems became more and more user-friendly, graphical user interfaces, etc., I think the scope of these applications continued to increase. And I think then we had the National E-Governance Plan, which was in the governance space. Private sector also, proceeded to do a lot of computerization and automation in their operations. Now, the real, I would say, in my view, the real leapfrog in some sense began with Aadhaar. In 2009, when the government of India constituted the Unique Identification Authority of India, and Mr. Nandan Nilekani as its chairman, and I also had the good fortune of working as its Director General and Mission Director. And that's where I think we took a moonshot, creating unique digital identities for the people of our country. So this was actually a big kind of experiment, both in public policy, in implementation, and also technology, because we were attempting a technology which is how do you ensure uniqueness in 1.3 billion population. That was the biggest technological feat we were attempting. And no, this experiment had never been done on this planet. And whatever, kind of things were done were very small numbers, 1 million, 2 million. We were going to use biometric technology for the first time for developmental agenda, for ensuring this uniqueness using fingerprints and iris images. So that's where that's the thing from a technology standpoint. It was very challenging. From an operational viewpoint, also it was very challenging because creating a solution for a very diverse country like India is really quite challenging in itself. So how do you ensure enrollment of people where there is no electricity, where it's very difficult to reach also? So these were some of the things which was a huge logistic challenges. And then of course, having generated their digital identity, how do you communicate this to the people was another offered another set of challenges. So fortunately, we applied all the all the principles, so to say, of both public sector participation, private sector participation. I was looking at the last session, and we have a number of alumni of the UID Authority of India on the panels in this whole innovation summit. So essentially, we created a very good organization of public-private partnership, and there we started this journey. And we did create Aadhaar, and today we have 1.3 billion Aadhaar numbers. It is the world's first digital identity, which is actually a foundational identity, which is bereft from eligibility, so much so that Aadhaar does not even guarantee citizenship. So it just says that this is R.S. Sharma, and that's the end of the story. So, and it provides authentication service to prove that I am who I claim to be. So I think these were some of the stuff we learned in Aadhaar, relating to scalability, relating to interoperability, relating to frugalness of the solutions, relating to robustness of the solutions, relating to speed. And these were some of the stuff which we learned. And I think since there, we did create a number of solutions on top of Aadhaar. So for example, we created digital signatures on demand called eSign. We created what is called the electronic KYC. Authentication as a service was offered by Aadhaar since the beginning itself. Then we had a number of other products also, which we, digital consent artifact, which is so much used today in the consent-based, stuff. So this is a number of products were created on top of Aadhaar, which we all collectively called Digital India, sort of India stack, so to say. And this essentially, enables paperless, presenceless, and cashless governance. And of course, cashless came with UPI in 2016. So that's also a very important, product which India made, and UPI as a specification, as a set of specifications, as a language of money transfer, really revolutionized the entire payment system in the country. It decoupled the payment from the bank. And yesterday, last month, I'm told we had as much as 4.5 billion transactions. I think this is more than all debit, credit, all kinds of cards probably worldwide taken together. So and it is absolutely free. It's absolutely effortless. It works on mobile. So these were some of the things which we did, and we are really proud of them. On the other hand, the Digital India program, which actually the Honorable Prime Minister launched in the year 2014. And I also had the good fortune of being the Secretary of Information Technology Department and articulating some parts of that program. That program really made a very comprehensive kind of articulation of things which we were going to do in Digital India. So it talked of three, vision areas. One is digital, sort of connectivity as an infrastructure. So digital connectivity as a utility for citizens, that's what we talked about. And we said, let's connect India. That's one. And secondly, we said the second layer is software and services on demand. Because on this digital infrastructure, you must have software and services on demand. And the last but most important part was the digital, what is called digital literacy or digital empowerment of people. So these were the three areas. And I think we have done very well in all these three areas. So think of today digital connectivity. Today we have 1.2 billion mobile connections. Even if you call, maybe some of them are duplicates and some of them may be inactive, even then we have about 900 million certainly mobile connections. Every family has at least one connection, if not more. Then we have 800 million plus internet connections. We have 600 million plus smartphones, and they are growing at the rate of 25 million per quarter. And today every average Indian, the average data consumption on mobile sort of networks is the highest in the world. It is 12 gigabytes per person per month. And Indian mobile networks transport more data than the corresponding mobile networks of US and China put together. Now that's, I believe the current figure is 12 exabytes. So these are some of the statistics which actually and it's a 4G connectivity. And most importantly, the cheapest data rate in the world. It's actually a revolution. The about 5-6 years back, the data rates were 275 rupees per gigabyte. Today, the data rates are 7 rupees per gigabyte, 8 rupees per gigabyte. So that's the way. So now India is the only country where people are watching films on mobile. So this is the revolution which has taken place in the digital infrastructure, which is now as a utility to citizen. And secondly, obviously, digital infrastructure is useless unless you create meaningful applications. So these meaningful applications, as you know, we have number of applications based on Aadhaar. Direct benefit transfers, for example, are taking place. 2 billion plus direct benefit transfers happening in a year, and many other things are happening. So food delivery is taking place through Aadhaar authentication. The mobile SIMs are being given to people instantaneously using Aadhaar authentication, and payments are happening at a massive scale. So I think all these softwares and services which we created on top of this digital infrastructure are really transforming the lives of Indians. And in the previous session, we were talking about the education. Yes, education is another sector which is going to be transformed. Health is another sector. And interestingly, I'm currently working in the health space. That's also going to be really transformed with the use of technology. So I think that's where we are. Now came COVID, of course, and then COVID, really transformed in a very bad manner the lives of the entire world. It is a very, very severe experience. I don't think any one of us would have thought about such a situation. And what happened was vaccination. India, as you know, took up the vaccination program in the all seriousness, and our Prime Minister launched the vaccination on 16th of January 2021. Sorry, he told us that look, we need to create a digital backbone for this delivery. Otherwise, there will be chaos. Otherwise, people will just give all kinds of statements. Nobody will know who has been vaccinated, what vaccination was there, and stuff like that. So it's necessary for us to create a digital backbone which will support this program. And that's where the Cowin was, in some sense, born. And when we were designing and architecting Cowin, we said, let us remember certain principles. One is it should be based on open APIs. It should be based on open standards. It should be largely open source. These were three things. And of course, it should be inclusive, very simple to operate. You will not require a username and a password and all kinds of tech stuff. Anybody who can operate mobile phone should be able to operate Cowin. So these were some of the overarching principles which we set for our team. And I'm proud to say that our team really, worked wonders. And I was engaged in this job, so to say, on 8th of January 2021. And 16th January, the Honorable Prime Minister launched it. When I had met the Honorable Prime Minister on 14th of January, I had informed him that, look, it will take a little while. And he assured me, don't worry. After first dose, at least, 28 days lever you have got. After first dose, you should at least set it right. And we are happy to say, everybody had, of course, written off. All the media houses were saying COVID has crashed, COVID doesn't work, it will never scale up. But then they were all proved wrong. And today we have done 1.75 billion, more than 1.75 billion vaccinations in the country using COVID. And we actually made it phygital in the sense that we said everybody is not, going to get, schedule their appointments on COVID. Everybody may not be able to register on COVID. So let us, make a system whereby the digital journey can begin either from the registration point or from the vaccination point. But whatever it is, whosoever is vaccinated, that event must be recorded in an immutable vaccine event record, vaccination event record, IVER as we call it. And a digitally verifiable certificate must be, issued at any time. And that's where DIVOC came. Mr. Nandan Nilekani, through Govt and through his foundation, he offered that solution, and that solution is what is plugged into Cowin. So basically, Cowin, as you know, it has a number of components. It has components for registration. It has components for hospitals, publishing their timetable so that that timetable becomes visible for others. It has a vaccination module. It has a certificate module. So all these things are there. And the basic lesson which we drew from Cowin was, A, keep the design very simple. B, make it inclusive. Make it, very simple to use. And of course, then we published API in the beginning itself. And after some time, we opened up this API to the world. And we have today more than 150 partners who are connecting on Cowin, whether it is Paytm or Infosys or Max Hospitals or many other, entities are connected to Cowin using open APIs, these APIs. So that's the architecture. And of course, you can see the entire history. You just have to put your mobile number and put your OTP and you are good to go. You can have 6 people of a family. So that way, and of course, Cowin has evolved in the sense that, initially the rules were that we will give it only for 60 years plus. Then the rules became that we will have 45 years plus with comorbidity, and then of course 45 years, then of course 18 years. So it has continued to change. It was free in the beginning, then it became priced, and private sector, of course, even now charges the money. But this is there have been multiple policy changes. I'm sure everybody is aware. So that policy changes also were able to be incorporated, and they were able to be incorporated again because it was actually a data. It was a customization, so to say, or it was settings part which were just being changed. We were not changing any code. We were not sort of fiddling with the code. So that's the way it has kept very, very simple. So that's the Cowin. And of course, now I like to talk about in PMJY and the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. PMJY, as you know, was started in September of 2018. And the idea was that we should provide health assurance or health safety, so to say, to 40% of our vulnerable population. And that is where it caters to 10.74 crore families, which is 54 crore individuals, 540 million. And it provides a cover insurance or assurance cover of 5 lakhs per annum per family. That's how it is being implemented. And till now, we have done about 3 crore hospitalizations. And of course, the speed is accelerating as we go along. And we are continuing to refining and finding out technologies and systems to improve the performance. Let me also add that the leadership at the National Health Authority, which is responsible for implementation of Ayushman Bharat PMJY, since the beginning insisted that there should be a completely paperless system, which means that we don't use any paper. Everything is uploaded on the system. Everything is processed in the system. It's a workflow, and starting from the starting of what is called registration, pre-authorization, or claim submission to claim disposal, everything is online. So that's one part, and the operations keep on improving as we go along, as the technologies improve, and that's one. But the most important stuff which happened during the last year was actually the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. The Prime Minister launched that mission on 23rd of September 2021, and the overarching goal of that Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission is to ensure the full leveraging of the digital technologies to provide affordable, quality, and ubiquitous health services in the country. So that's where that's the overall objective. Fortunately, the only one good aspect of COVID was that we learned how to Zoom, how to do these video conferencing, and how to do video calls, etc. Consult doctors on video. So this digital application of digital technologies, especially the visual ones, is something which has happened in COVID, and we feel very comfortable. Today also I'm talking to you sitting in Bangalore, and I'm talking to you from Delhi, and I'm as comfortable, and probably you are also equally comfortable listening to me. So this is some of the one only good thing which has happened. Everything else is bad, of course. Now in this, we realize that teleconsultations, then of course a person having his own health records, the doctor is able to see the longitudinal health record of a person. So all these are things which we started creating in the year 20, starting from 15th of August 2020, when the PM announced it for in the 6 union territories. And now we have all the pieces of the puzzle in place, which are privacy preserving, which are scalable, which are interoperable. Again, the same principles of broad principles of interoperability, frugality, robustness, scalability, all these inclusivity, all these principles have been incorporated in Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. And essentially, we are trying to create what UPI did to the payment system. Similarly, what we are calling this is UHI, Unified Health Interface. And that Unified Health Interface seeks to connect all disparate client applications and also the service providers applications in a manner, in a common sort of network, or through a common language of intercommunication. So that's what we are going to achieve. That's what we are aiming at. And of course, this project is a little more difficult than Aadhaar, because in Aadhaar you had basically two ecosystem partners, two people, two entities involved. One was the government, which had the money to enroll people. Another was the people who were looking for getting a verifiable identity. And both were interested in doing things. And then, of course, we created business models so as to accelerate. Here you have hospitals, doctors, laboratories, pharmacists, huge number of stakeholders. And those stakeholders have to see value in this whole proposition. And that is where it will start. So this is a little difficult project in that sense. We have created the necessary components, and we are happy to say that the existing components like Aadhaar, payment systems, digital signatures, etc., they are all necessary and provide these building blocks, so to say, of making ABDF happen. So we don't have to create many things which are required, which are required for this to happen. Many pieces are already in place. What we need is really to put these together with the principle of openness, principle of inclusion, and then make this entire game happen. So that, fortunately, that job is complete. Now the only thing which is left is essentially to ensure its adoption in a big manner. And I think its adoption will take place provided everybody sees value in it. So for example, from the AI perspective, now suppose there are AI solutions for diagnostics. Now if these AI solutions can be put on software as service on this platform, then doctors don't, I mean doctors, hospitals, they don't need to buy these AI solutions. Like we digitize the digital transactions, this will basically do a kind of payment based services. So that's what it is. I would like to end here to say that we need to leverage fully the application, the digital technology and their adoption, and we have done pretty well thus far. We are confident of making different kind of systems. The open network for digital commerce, which is being constructed, is another example which I hope will again transform the digital commerce space. Thank you once again for inviting me to this conference, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ram Sewak Sharma ji. It was a wonderful insight into what it takes to really build these large-scale systems. And I cannot but wonder, wish we will actually host you sometime physically here, and we'll get a chance to brainstorm some of the things that you talked about in terms of diagnostics, and especially integrating into the National Health Authority. I think that's a phenomenal perspective, and because it will really allow us to scale it. So thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing the learnings with all of us. A lot of us who are listening to this, they are involved in building technology, and I hope they get inspired to actually create some of these societal scale solutions that India desperately needs. So thank you very much.